What is up everyone, Movie Worm back again with another video, and today is going to be my top 10 movies of 2021. Now for me personally, I thought this was a great year for films. Way better than last year. I know we had the whole COVID pandemic last year and it's still in this year, but not as bad. Cinemas have been open for the majority of it. But I just enjoyed this year a hell of a lot more. There was so many movies that came out that I really did love, and it was really hard to leave a few films out here because I done a whole ranking of 2021 films on my Letterboxd, and some of the ones that I missed out, it's sad to see, but I am going to be doing a full ranking of all 91 films that I've watched in 2021 in a separate video. So I'm not going to do the honourable mentions here, but I will talk about them more in that video, so look out for that. That'll be coming in the next few days or the next week or so. But for here, I've just gone with the top 10, the absolute best of 2021 in my opinion. If your favourite film's not in this top 10 list, it probably just didn't connect with me as much as it did to you. Now there are a couple of films that I just haven't watched this year that I really wanted to, being House of Gucci as one of them. I think Antlers is one, and Licorice Pizza was another one. I just missed them at the cinema, or I just don't have access to them. So yeah, hopefully I can get them watched, but I still think 91 movies is a hell of a lot. So let's just get into it with number 10. Coming in at number 10 is Raya and the Last Dragon from Disney. Now this might have been at number 1 at one point. It came out earlier in the year, I think it was in March or something. And this tells the story of Raya, our main protagonist, who has to go and find the last dragon because 500 years ago humans and dragons lived together, and the dragons sacrificed themselves to save the humans for this evil that came along. But the evil is back now 500 years later, and there is rumours that one dragon is still out there, so Raya must go and find her to help save humanity. Now what I loved about this was the world that had been created here of Kumandra, and all these different realms that Raya visits. And she gets this dragon really early on, who's voiced by Awkwafina, and they just go on this massive adventure. I thought it was a really clever original concept, and it totally worked for me. I loved how it all unfolded. It was just a fun, entertaining film from start to finish, and I loved the main characters of Raya and the last dragon played by Awkwafina there, sorry. A lot of people didn't like Awkwafina, but I thought she voiced this dragon great, and she was so entertaining and fun, and the voice acting just worked for me there. And Raya was one of the strongest protagonists we've had in a Disney film for a very long time. So yeah, apart from a bunch of side characters that weren't really doing it for me, I didn't really have too many problems with this movie, and it's remained in my top 10 since way back in March there. So I think this was a really strong Disney movie, a really great entry for them, and deserves its place in this top 10. And the animation is amazing. This movie looks incredible. Like all Disney movies do, they seem to get better and better, but yeah, the design of this world and the locations and the characters and stuff all just came together for a visual treat for the eyes, and a pretty, emotional ending there too. Everything was just right story wise. So for me, number 10 is Raya and the Last Dragon. Coming in at number 9, we have The Last Duel. Now I must admit, I really weren't going to expect much from this. Me and my friend just decided to go one Wednesday night to see this because when I seen the trailer, I actually thought it looked quite good. It's not usually my type of film, these medieval times and all these characters on horseback and stuff. It's not usually my type of movie. But I went to see it anyway, and wow, I was blown away by this film. It basically tells 3 different stories, well, the same story from 3 different perspectives. So when you hear that phrase, there's 2 sides to every story. Well, there's actually 3 sides to every story in this one. And this is basically about Jodie Comer, who says she is raped by Adam Driver's character, and her husband, Matt Damon, wants to get to the bottom of it, and sort of wants to challenge him to a duel because the gods will decide who is telling the truth. But we see the story from Jodie Comer's point of view, Adam Driver's and Matt Damon's, and even though it was the same tale, seeing all the different perspectives and how one thing works to compare to another, and you see a different side. Like there's one moment where Adam Driver thinks Jodie Comer is looking at him because she's got the hots for him and stuff, but really she's saying to her husband, let's just give him a little smile and stuff so it looks like we're on his side. So yeah, you can see why Adam Driver thinks that she likes him, but when you see the other side of it, you go, oh yeah, oh. So the movie does that really cleverly all the way through. Visually, this movie looked great. I mean, it looks so realistic, where Ridley Scott had filmed all these locations and stuff. There's not really much CGI put in there. Everything's just filmed in the proper locations. Brilliant performances. Jodie Comer is fantastic in this movie. She was definitely the best character and the best performance. But Adam Driver, Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, they're all great. And it's a true story as well, apparently. So I'm gutted this bombed at the box office. But like I said, it wasn't really one that I was going into thinking that was my type of movie. And I can understand why a lot of people do think that. And it bombed at the box office. But it's on Disney Plus right now. And I highly recommend you check it out, because The Last Duel was absolutely amazing, and me and my friend were really talking about it a lot when it finished. It's a really jaw-dropping film that it's kind of long, but you don't really feel that runtime. I was always invested. So number 9 is The Last Duel. Number 8 is going to be Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Now this was kind of surprising, not as surprising as some films, because Marvel always do, you know, are on the ball with their films. But I didn't know anything about this character going in. I was just like, oh, it's a Marvel film, it's part of the MCU, I'm gonna go and see it. But this was really a great kung fu superhero type film mixed together there. It had a great story going for it. Shang-Chi was a great character to get behind. Loved his sidekick, again, Awkwafina there, who plays Katie. She was great in the movie. I thought both of them worked so well on screen together. But the best part of this movie for me were the action scenes. Now there is one on a bus, and it's the second best moment that takes place on a bus in 2021. You'll find out what number 1 is in a minute, but this fight scene was awesome. As the bus moving through the street and he's just kicking ass, and then there's another scene on a scaffold later on this building site, and they use the scaffold to its full potential. People swing around these poles and just doing these fly high kicks and stuff, people getting kicked off the building. It was a great action movie, really great choreographed fight scenes. And when we get deeper into the film, I loved what happened here, where this location we went to, a certain character turns up from a past MCU film, and he was so funny in this movie. So I thought this was a really strong entry into this MCU, and some questionable CGI at the end, but you're gonna get that sometimes with these Marvel films anyway. But for me, this is one of the better Marvel movies, and it's quite high on my MCU ranking there. So number 8 is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Number 7 is going to be Last Night in Soho from Edgar Wright. Now, this is a film I didn't know too much about. I just know Edgar Wright's a pretty good director. But when I seen the trailers and stuff, I tried to work it all out in my head as to what was going on, and I still didn't. It was just a ride to go through from start to end that gripped the hell out of me. I was just loving every single second of this movie. It's so well paced, the way it's all told. It was just a really great movie with a bit of a twist ending that I didn't see coming. But Thomasin McKenzie, who leads this film, was absolutely incredible here. Anya Taylor-Joy, who's my favourite actress working today, just absolutely owned every scene she was in. The whole look of the film being, you know, in 60s London there, around this fashion era, and Thomasin McKenzie playing this fashion designer in the, you know, in the present day, all centered around fashion well, but it fit the theme, the way all the characters looked, the way they were dressed and everything. It just all come together so well, and Edgar Wright told a fascinating story here. Matt Smith is also in there as this really, you know, mysterious character. I can't go too much into it story wise, but I really do feel like this is a movie that you need to see. and it kills me not being able to put it higher on this list because it was such a cool original story, and original stories are what we need from Hollywood these days. But Edgar Wright got this spot on for me. Everything about it was just amazing. Apart from one or two moments with the special effects towards the end, I don't have too many complaints about this film, and I loved the whole ride. So number 7 is Last Night in Soho. Number 6 is A Quiet Place Part 2 from director John Krasinski, and this guy is so talented. It is weird that he's not going to do part 3, which I think could hurt this trilogy. I really hope he stays on board and does make this part 3, because this movie did actually leave it open for that third entry. But 10 minutes after the opening scene here, which blew me away, I was just so ready for this film. And it just tells the story of Emily Blunt and her 3 children, trying to survive this post-apocalyptic world where if you make a sound, these creatures hunt you down and kill you straight away. But it was just visually stunning. It reminded me of the Last of Us game. You know, if the Last of Us HBO miniseries wants to take any inspiration whatsoever, please look at The Quiet Place Part 2. You really do get invested into these characters, wanting them to survive. It's a very tense-filled movie. Cillian Murphy, sorry. He is an added character into this, and he just made the character roster even stronger. But I just love where we started at this movie with these characters and where it ends. The character arcs are brilliant, and it really does leave it open for part 3. So it's just a bit of a journey with these characters, really. Nothing too groundbreaking, but the way it played out just totally worked for me. And you could hear a pin drop in my cinema. I'm so happy that the audience were very, very quiet during this film, because it just added to that experience. And to make a movie like this and have that audience has to work together properly, and it really, really did. So this is one of my favourite cinema experiences ever, and it's quite high on this list at number 6, and that is A Quiet Place Part 2. Number 5 is another really surprising film for me this year, and that is Cruella, which tells the story of Cruella de Vil, played by Emma Stone. And this is an origin story, of course. All takes place in the punk rock era of the 70s. Emma Stone is this fashion designer, and it's kind of like Last Night in Soho, where the theme of fashion plays into what the characters are wearing in the film and stuff. The hair and makeup design, everything was on point here. But this story just worked for me in so many ways. You sort of think that she's the main villain of this movie, but actually it's Emma Thompson's character, and I couldn't decide who was actually better in this film. Both of them were just incredible as these, fashion designers, one of them being this big fashion guru and the other one trying to work her way to the top, basically. But it kind of reminded me halfway through of a Joker story a little bit, with the way Emma Stone starts to really lose her mind. She's playing 2 different characters, and at the end of the film she's a totally different person. But for her to connect them dots just right and get these 2 brilliant characters and personalities out of her, it was an amazing performance. It really was. Visually, the movie looks stunning. I love the whole look of 70s London. All the characters were just great, like Jasper and Horace and Jasper. They were incorporated into the film really well. I do think it was a bit of a far-fetched ending, I'm not gonna lie, just a little bit there. But no movie is really perfect, is it? Unless it's The Godfather Part 2. But it's very high on this list, as you can tell, and one of my absolute favourites of the year. I can't wait to check this one out again. So number 5 is Cruella. Number 4 is going to be Spiderman No Way Home. Not as surprising to be in this list at all, because I enjoy every Spider-Man movie I watch, really. Whether it's the Andrew Garfield movies, whether it's Tom Holland, whether it's Tobey Maguire. I get a kick out of Spider-Man films. It's one of my favourite franchises out there. But this was definitely one of the better ones. Tom Holland is my favourite Spider-Man, and he gives the performance of his life here. This is definitely his strongest. It's like he's incorporated himself into this character now and fits that mould, like Robert Downey Jr. did with Iron Man. he's now Spider-Man in this MCU. I can't see anyone else taking over this character and being better than him. I just love him in the role so much. This movie has a great story going for it. There's a lot of fan service in there, but it's fan service done right. It's not just there for an Easter egg. It actually incorporates into the story well. Great, just some of the greatest moments I've ever had at the cinema, with gasps and cheers from the audience. Seeing all these returning villains like Doc Ock and stuff. Great fight scenes like on the bridge. It's an incredible movie. It felt like a huge step in cinema to put these universes together and make them all, play out into this story. I love this movie. I couldn't stop thinking about it after I watched it. And what I loved about it most is the connection we have now to Peter Parker, MJ and Ned. These little trio are characters we really do care about after being through a journey of 3 films for them. So yeah, I was really just right in there. Some emotional story moments as well. It had everything, it really did. This is a true superhero movie and deserves its place in the top 5. So number 4 is Spider-Man No Way Home. Number 3 is going to be No Time to Die. I am not a huge James Bond fan. I like James Bond, but I've never been a hardcore fan of the franchise like a lot of people. I've only really seen the Daniel Craig ones and a couple of the Pierce Brosnan ones, so that's the type of fan I am. But wow, this movie absolutely blew me away. This is on par with Casino Royale for being my favourite Daniel Craig movie now. And it was like a 3-hour long film, but wow, I didn't even want it to end. It was just so well done, told a great story. Daniel Craig definitely had his best here. I really did like the villain in Rami Malek. I wish we would have got more of him in the film. That's my only complaint. He's hardly on screen. Great opening scene, with the snow and stuff. Leah Seydoux, I think her name is, was great as Bond's love interest in this. Anna de Armas shows up and just does an unbelievable cameo here. I hope we see more of her character in future films. But it just had so many great moments, like these villains storming the building, the final 30 minutes, so many emotional story beats going on in this movie. James Bond is like, everything's thrown at him in his life and everything gets thrown at him in this. I just connected to this character more than ever in this movie. I thought it was an absolutely fantastic action film. One of the best of the year for sure. Could have maybe been higher on this list, but the next 2 really just blew me away. But No Time to Die is one of the highest scores I give a movie this year, being a 9 out of 10. So yeah. Number 3 is No Time to Die. Number 2 is going to be Zack Snyder's Justice League. Now, I hadn't seen the original Justice League because I hated Batman vs Superman so much. Back then I didn't have a channel and stuff, and I really didn't want to drag my ass to the cinema to watch it. So I just left it. So I'd never seen the original Justice League, and lots of people said how bad it was. Where's the Batman vs Superman? They hated that movie. So I just never got round to it, and when this one was coming out I thought, oh, this is one of the biggest releases of the year. People have been clamouring for this film, and it's 4 hours long, and I'm just going to have to sift through it and review it. And I did actually think about not doing it. I didn't want to. By the end of this film, I was left open-mouthed how amazing and how jaw-dropping and how explosive and impactful and brilliant this movie was. I absolutely loved every single second of it. I'm just so happy that Zack Snyder got to get his version out there. Now, in the unlikely event that I enjoy the original Justice League more when I do watch it, because I'm going to be reviewing all the Batman movies this year leading up to the 4th of March, I highly doubt that that version is going to be better, because I'm just so happy that he got his version out there, because apparently he only done like 20% of that other movie and had to leave for personal reasons. But wow man, this film was just the ultimate superhero movie for me. I absolutely loved it. I loved how all these characters came together. He had to tell a lot of stories there, so the 4-hour run time is definitely warranted. So I loved I think it was Cyborg's character. The story he goes through is probably one of my favourites. I absolutely adored Ben Affleck as Batman. I thought he was great. Probably up there with Michael Keaton as my favourite Batman. Yes, even past Bale. I think he's that good. Just everything about this movie worked for me. I was never ever bored during this 4-hour runtime. I actually watched this film again about 2 days later because I was telling my fiance how great it was, and she said she wanted to watch it, and I had no qualms about going in and watching it again. The attack on the place where Wonder Woman lives, I'm really sorry I forgot the part of the world she lives in, but all that was amazing. The bank heist at the start of the movie where Wonder Woman saves everyone, it had everything. I even loved the epilogue with the Joker and the Batman. It was just great. I absolutely adored this film, and I bought it straight away when it came out on 4K. So technically a 2016 movie maybe, but this version is definitely Snyder's, and it you know, apparently it was nowhere near that original. So number 2 is Zack Snyder's Justice League. Number 1 though is going to be Nobody, starring Bob Odenkirk. This tells the story of an average Joe who's about 50 years old, family man, and his house is robbed and he decides to fight back and kick some ass. And that is a very simple concept, but the way this movie is done blew me away. I absolutely just had the time of my life with this film. Bob Odenkirk, exceptional performance from him. He looks the type of person who just wouldn't be involved in fighting with people, and you wouldn't look twice at him if he walked down the street, and that's what makes this movie so great for me. When we get into all these fight scenes and stuff where these guys are coming after him, it's where the movie shines the most. He kind of moves like John Wick a little bit, but gets hurt at the same time. So he's not a great fighter, but he'll always win his battles. Well, he is a great fighter, of course, but his defense isn't there. So it's a very grounded fight scenes. It's not like all choreographed to be perfect of him hitting people and never getting touched. He does get hurt in these fights, and there's a bus scene in this movie, and that is why ShangChi's bus scene is the second best bus scene of 2021, because this was one of my favourite parts of anything I see in this year, where he's just kicking these guys' ass on this bus for a whole 10 minutes straight. It's so amazing to watch, so well directed, so well edited. The whole movie is just a fun, entertaining ride from start to finish. I absolutely adored it, and I'm so happy that something original has came to my number 1 spot. So it's not like a sequel or a reboot or anything. This is something that we hadn't really seen before. It does take a lot of things from other movies like John Wick and stuff, but I'm just so happy this made it to number 1, because I like it when fresh ideas come out and new movies that should come out of nowhere and they surprise the hell out of me, and this was just absolutely incredible. It really was. It's such a fun time. I haven't heard many people say a bad word about it. So if you haven't seen Nobody, it's definitely worth checking out. And I can't see, if there's a few movies I need to catch up on, I can't see anything knocking this off the number 1 spot. It was amazing to me, and I absolutely loved every second of it. So number 1 is Nobody. Okay guys, hope you all enjoyed this top 10 movies of 2021. Don't forget to check out the rest of my list, and if you want to see my full reviews on any of these films, they'll be in the link down below with all my 2021 movie reviews. Thank you so much everyone. What did you think of these movies? Do you want to leave your top 10 list down below? I'll reply to you all, I promise. Take it all easy guys. I'll see you on the next video.